So we are here talking about the retreat, which is coming up in
approximately 5.5 to 6 weeks.
5 6 weeks, and thinking about the projects that we want to take with us, and also getting some comments from people saying, "Oh, I can't come to the retreat because I've never quilted. I don't sew."
Like that's a problem.
Not a problem. And in fact, what we were thinking is we could talk a little bit today about what are some really easy beginner things that you could think about bringing to a retreat like this that would let you get the whole thing done at the retreat, which is always cool. So Wendy's got some patterns and a technique, and I've got some techniques that we want to talk about that are beginner friendly. So let's start with you.
All right.
What you got?
So I've got some patterns that are really slice and dice easy. Basically, they are, it is, don't show, yeah, they're basically put things, that first one is you put 9 together and cut it in pieces and sew it back together with a sashing. The second one is you just cut pieces and all straight stitching, same block, different colors. You can use a fat quarter pack. I think some of them you can use a pack of charm squares, jelly rolls. Very easy. Oh, let's see what we've got here.
Stitch. I think the key, some of the keys are straight stitches. So you're not trying to sew anything curved. You're just putting two pieces together.
Repeating blocks.
So you'll get better and better as time goes on. Yep. By the time you finish the quilt, you will no longer be a beginner in the quilt.
Exactly. And easy to pull together. This is fat quarters. Yeah. And this one is 10-inch squares or a layer cake. So if you've got a layer cake, you know the fabrics all go together because they're usually put together from a line. Fat quarters, 12 and 16 for these. You can get a fat quarter pack. You can pick out your own.
Now, we do have a video about picking out fabric, which if you want to pick out your own fabric, you don't want to use a set of pre-cuts or something somebody else has picked for you, you can do that.
Yep.
But why not rely on
take advantage of somebody else's? Yep.
Somebody else's design genius.
Even using the same, like for this one, even using the same cake. The heck is it called again?
Layer cake.
Layer cake. There you go.
Cake.
You know, it's food. We're good.
Cake pops.
Even using the same layer cake, as someone else, you're not going to have the same quilt.
Right. It's going to come out looking different.
Absolutely. So those are real quick and easy, inexpensive, very beginner friendly.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of other ones.
Slightly more like millimeters more challenging.
They're not just straight stitches, squares together. These you do half square triangles. You want to grab side of that? So this you're using half square triangles, making flying geese and squares and sashing. And everyone's will be different, even if you're using the same colors. Again, just because everyone is different. This you can use fat eighths, fat quarters, half yards, depending upon what size you want.
Stars, if you like stars, it's a good one.
And you know, me, Halloween, whatever.
Yeah, her Halloween, of course. Okay, you get the other one. I'll take care of this.
And this other one is a churn dash, which is a pretty standard traditional block done in a little less traditional way.
So one thing to note about these two is they both use those half square triangles. And so either one of these, you're just adding one more, slightly more complex element than just taking squares.
Yep.
Rectangles.
And rectangles and some half square triangles.
It has some half square triangles. So if you want something that's a little more complex.
Actually, these aren't actually half square triangles. They're stitch and flip, which is similar to a half square triangle, but you're not doing it corner to corner.
The technique
is, take a look.
The technique is easier.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. because you're not trying to match corner to corner. You're going in a little bit. So this point doesn't come up to here.
Stitch and flip, even easier.
Yep, much easier. Good for improv stuff too.
Yeah. Okay.
The other, nope, that's all I have for patterns.
That's all you have for patterns.
Go, baby, go.
So let's look at your first technique, because this is a really easy technique. And so when we say easy, what are we saying? We're saying construction, the physical act of making the blocks is easy. Straight lines, easy cutting.
So this is a Irish chain. We're only going to do half.
More. I don't know what I was thinking.
This is an Irish chain.
Super easy.
Size. It's a 9 patch and a square.
Easy peasy.
And as you can see, they're not all the same color. You can do this in just 2 colors. You can do it like I have in 2 color, in a bunch of reds and a green, or a bunch of one color and another. So your basic 9 patch,
easy.
Basic, you know, you're looking at kind of a checkerboard, a tic-tac-toe board. And you've got your basic patchwork, which is 4 patch, 9 patch, 16 patch, 32 patch, pick a number, an even number divisible by 4, basically.
So it's just a whole bunch of squares sewn together. I mean, technically, you wouldn't have to sew them together in 4s or 8s or 16s. You could sew them together in rows if you wanted to.
Absolutely.
But the point being, super easy. Even this lovely piano key border,
super easy.
Rectangles, they are the same width as your base of the main part of your quilt. Again, super easy. And can get some stunning results with some of these. Really, really cool results. Okay.
And this next to the last one.
Oh, there's another one? Oh, yeah, that's
box.
Right. I knew she had more. What was she thinking?
What was you thinking?
You're the one who said you were done.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And then I said, well, let's go to your technique. All right.
So this is bento box. It's a square attached to a square, to a rectangle, to a rectangle, to a rectangle.
So this is the block. This isn't the block. Well, that actually is
this is not the block.
Right. This is not the block. That's what I meant to say.
This is the block.
This is the block. And you put 4 of them together to get this bigger block.
We did this as a mystery block in one of our quilt chapter meetings.
Again, easy, but this is a great segue to the techniques, because look how kind of complicated.
It looks complicated.
It looks like it could be
really not
complicated. The construction is easy. The look is a little more complex, which leads really nicely into techniques as opposed to patterns, because techniques, my favorite thing about a lot of techniques is they look super complicated,
but they're really
easy to construct.
So if you think back to the green and red on the Irish chain, this started out looking like the green and red 9 patch.
As a 9 patch. That's right. So that's what the block looks like.
And when you put a bunch of them together, you get a really cool effect without a lot of trouble, because you did a 9 patch, you cut, sewed those blocks together again.
Yeah.
And there you have it.
Super easy technique.
And pretty quick, actually.
That looks
much more complicated.
It looks much more complicated once you start looking at the blocks all together.
Yeah, it does.
All right. So I've got a few techniques that look very complicated. So
just but super complicated.
Let me show this one. I'm going to show you a simple version, and then I'm going to show you what you can do if you really want to go cray cray. So,
which Andrea does quite often, is go cray cray with this. It's her favorite block, her favorite thing to do, I think.
So this is a 1 block wonder, and especially looking at it on the video, it looks really complicated. And you can see that it's a whole bunch of,
Hexagons.
there we go, of hexagons. Yeah, exactly. So why am I saying this is easy?
Because she's Andrea
Well,
and she knows.
I made a ton of these, but honestly, it's a technique by Maxine Rosenthal. This book is lovely. So many really nice examples, beautiful pictures, but it's a very straightforward process. There is nothing magical about it. You cut a bunch of repeats of your fabric, you stack them up. That's the magical part. You stack them up. There's some little special pinning you need to do, but it's pinning.
And this technique is especially, I think, suited for people who have to be really super precise in everything they do because it requires precision.
Doesn't even really require precision. It you, when you're sewing, yeah, I mean, okay, look, we're gonna have to have a showdown here. Look, every quilt,
some are more
should
forgiving
have-
than others.
should have some level of precision, like
Yeah.
people sew a 1/4 inch all the time, right? Not a 1/2 inch here and an 1/8 of an inch there.
It works.
But this is actually more forgiving than you would think. For one thing, because once you put your columns together, which is super easy, you're just sewing one triangle to another, then
Remembering
all
the order to
edges
put
are
them in.
bias. Now, that means you have to be careful with them or they'll stretch out, but it also means you can ease them easily. So yeah, you want all the centers of these hexagons. Let's look at this one. You want all the centers of the hexagons to come together correctly, for sure. Like, look at those little hexagons. However, you can make them come together pretty easily because you've got these long bias edges. Again, you don't want to rely on that too much or mess with them too much, but it's actually very forgiving. Let me show you what it could be.
Show them the back. The back is quite interesting
Okay,
because
well,
you can see the seaming on the back much easier than on the front.
here's the back. The other one was quilted, so you couldn't see
Yep.
the back. Here's what it looks like on the back.
You're doing these
When you're sewing them together
in
in
strips.
columns,
Yeah,
right?
columns.
Not rows, but yes, it could be rows.
Depends on which way you do it.
Depends on which way you do it, but basically you're sewing them in columns. You're just sewing one triangle to another, to another, to another. And then when you sew those columns together, you want those centers to come together. You really do. Although even if they don't, no one will ever see it. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
And the key is orientation, making sure your triangles are in the right orientation when you put them together.
I think this is the top. Yeah. All right. If you want to go a little cray like I did,
Cray.
you can make it really
From panels.
complicated. Okay, let's bring it back here and lift it up a little bit.
I'm shorter than you are.
So
Not
what
gonna be able-
you're seeing is this is a panel. There's a tree here. This is still not the full panel, but the picture is intact here. And then all the rest are hexagons made out of the panel. So I had a bunch of copies of the panel, cut it up, made all these other hexagons,
with the exception of the borders.
with the exception of the border. Yeah, absolutely. The
And
center
this
of the
corner
quilt
here.
is all the hexagons. And again, even this, the constructions was crazy just because of the way I did the panel.
It's a little more challenging.
It's a little more
putting
challenging.
a panel in it.
But all these are exactly the same, right? All those hexagons. So goes the other way.
Sorry,
I'll do it.
she's
later.
particular about how she folds.
Well, because it's ready to be quilted.
Yep.
So now, all that to say, so Andrea, crazy question. Has anyone ever made one of those for their very first quilt who had never quilted before and called thread string? and called Stitch in the Ditch, Needle in the Hole. And yes, in fact, I went to a retreat and taught people how to make a one block wonder. I was making mine. And there was a woman there who had never sewed before. Never mind, never made a quilt. She had never sewed before. Do you know she was the second one done? And it was beautiful. So the construction is not hard. That's the beauty of that quilt.
And sometimes if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know that people assume it's going to be hard.
Exactly.
You don't know it's hard.
You don't know it's hard. Exactly. All you know is, hey, that's really cool. I want to make that.
Yep.
So now, not to be confused with Bethany Reynolds Stack and Whack. So this is a Stack and Whack, and it's a little bit different. Stack and Wax. So the beauty of a one block wonder, one of the beauties of a one block wonder, is that you're not worried about what's going on in the fabric. You're just cutting strips and cutting triangles. You have no idea what those hexagons are going to look like. These are fussy cut. So it's a different technique. Also, you'll notice that there are 8 of these and not 6 triangles. They are also a different kind of triangle. They're not right triangles, but also super pretty, just a different technique. So I just wanted to be sure that we are clear that what I showed you is not a stack and whack. It is a one block wonder.
Although people do call the one block wonder a stack and whack because it's similar in technique style.
Well, it's similar in look, and it makes me crazy when people call it. Just gonna say.
It's fun making her crazy sometimes. It's about sewing stuff.
That's right. Next is a fracture. So we're going to have to bring this up closer to the camera, but here's the book, Fracture Frenzy. It's by Barbara Esslinger. And what you can't see easily here, which I will show you on one that is not quilted yet, is that this is little tiny squares. God, Wendy.
Little tiny squares.
Let me show you the back of this one.
Bigger tiny squares.
Bigger tiny squares with a slightly different technique that incorporated 3 panels and a solid.
This was 4
panels.
Okay? With the exception of this outside edge, that's different part of the panel.
Right, but the center part, right? This center part here, 4 panels. So again, this is a simple one because it's just 4 panels, cut it up in 2 different, cut it up, sew it together, make 2, cut them up, sew them back together. Again, do you need to keep track of what you're doing?
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
For sure. It's more of a project management, organizational complication as opposed to a construction complication. Super easy construction.
The biggest difference is the size of the seam allowance because you do a smaller seam allowance.
If you do a smaller seam allowance, you use an 1/8 inch seam allowance.
And remembering to do that can be challenging.
Yes, it can. I wouldn't know.
No, not at all.
Not at all. I've never done that before. And that the 1/8 inch seam allowance is the most challenging part of the construction. So really not
for some people, that's their default. So, you know, it's really not a big deal.
Or half their default because they spend half their time sewing 1/8 and half their time sewing 1/2. If you want to get crazy, you can do a big panel and you can add.
And you can see what the panel was when you stand back from it.
Yeah, you can see what the panel looked like.
Which was really a
then
cool
you
panel.
can add something like the solid in, right? So again, doesn't have to be this complex, but literally this is made exactly the same way construction wise. So I say this not to get you worried about doing one of these and thinking, oh my gosh, that's way too complicated.
It's really not.
But instead,
it's a little time consuming.
It's time consuming, but instead looking at it as, oh, this simple thing, if I do the exact same thing in a slightly different panel or size or whatever, I could have something that looks kind of complicated. All right. my last one is convergence. And I don't actually have a simple one to show you, but it's Ricky Tim's.
And it's a fairly easy technique.
And again, it looks complicated. This is, I think he does his with maybe even only a couple of fabrics because he's got these gorgeous hand dyes, right?
I think he does it with 2,
Um,
doesn't he? It might still be 4.
it might still be 4.
Yeah.
Here's one where you can really see what's going on. So again, exact same process, only I used a panel. So I've got 4 fabrics. One was a panel. You can see the sunflower. One's green. One is this crazy
Looks like a sunflower print.
G print, and the brown, right? So 4 fat quarters, basically. This is a little bigger than that. So they weren't fat quarters, but you can easily use fat quarters. 4 fat quarters, you slice it up. And again, you got to keep track of things because you've got different widths, right? But that's as complicated as it gets. Everything else, you're sewing straight seams, easy peasy construction.
I will say you either want a whole bunch of Post-it notes or pins with numbers or something to help you keep track.
Yeah, clips with numbers, something like that.
Something that'll actually stay.
So Ricky Tim's Convergence, Barbara Esslinger's Fractures, Maxine Rosenthal's One Block Wonders. They are gorgeous. They look amazing when you're done. They look super complicated. You will knock the socks off anybody who has never made one of these things. Anybody else going to be like, it's beautiful. And I know wasn't that hard to make. If they've ever made it before. But you'll blow away somebody who has never made one of these things.
Especially non-quilters.
They look amazing.
What you got on the back wall, Ann?
So if you wanted to get a little more complicated.
Okay, this would be step 2.
You're now
or step 3.
You've made 1 or 2 quilts at least, and you're like, yeah, I want to do something a little more complicated. These are also Ricky Tim's. These are kaleidoscope quilts. You actually make your own pattern. So it's 100% original. But again, it's all straight line sewing. Looks a lot more complex than it is because you actually make strip sets. So that's the most complicated thing, is that you're sewing wedges together. Getting out of this, right? Putting these 3 pieces on is the most complicated thing you'll do. It's
really not that horrible because you're continuing this wedge.
Yeah, it's not that hard. It's very cool. So Ricky Tim's Kaleidoscope, after you've done a Convergence or 2 or a One Block Wonder and you're like, yeah, I want to do something slightly more complicated, and a lot of people will tell you these are very complicated. So these are Bargellos.
Even I've done a Bargello.
And it looks beautiful and complicated. Again, it's much more of a project management complication than it is a sewing complication.
Because you're doing different widths and you're sewing strips together.
It's just not that hard. So construction-wise, again, these are easy. Why would I recommend something like these for a retreat? Well, first of all, you're going to have a lot of different people there with a lot of different levels of expertise or experience. So if you wanted to try one of these, you will have people there who can probably help you if you need it.
Chances are good.
Yeah, and if you do something small like a wall hanging, there's an excellent chance you'll actually finish it, or at least get far enough into it that taking it home and finishing it up on your own.
You'll be excited to take it home and finish it.
You won't need any help at that point, right? You'll have run into whatever you're going to run into
at least once or twice
in 2, 3, 4 days. Yeah, you'll run into all the things. So that's what's on the wall, Wen.
Awesome. Thanks.
Do you have anything else?
Nothing I can think of. What about you? Other than our handy dandy cups of tea, because apparently we are the teacup mavens.
Always got to bring your tea to a retreat.
Hydration, hydration, hydration.
Yeah, that's all I can think of for now. Looking forward to the retreat.
Me too.
If you have ideas you'd like us to talk about specifically around the retreat or anything else,
And we'll put the names of the books that we showed and the patterns
yes,
that
and the
we showed
patterns will all be in
in the description.
the description. And yeah, I think that's it. Let us know if there's something specific you'd like to see. Otherwise, we're just going to keep rambling on about things that we like.
Because you know what? That works for us. Kittens.
Oh gosh, no, we're not gonna talk about
It was worth a shot.
Yeah, good try. All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Bye.
See ya.